Hello, my name is Wanda, and I live in Edmonton, Alberta. And I am a knitter, and I do spinning, and I do quite a bit of sewing. And I recently retired from my job as a flight attendant, and I used to take projects with me always in my flight bag. But when they got too big for this is the knitting bag I used to take them in. And when they got too big for this bag, I would leave them at home and start a new project. And so I have many unfinished projects, WIPs, works in progress. But the issue I've had this last while is I lost quite a bit of weight, and now all those half-finished projects are too big for me. So I have been frogging them, ripping them out, and re-knitting the yarn that was in them. So I just wanted to do a little video to show some of the projects I've been doing. This is my go-to knitting bag. I made this on my embroidery machine, and then scraps that I had from making masks during COVID. And it's got a zipper in it. It has no pockets or anything, but it's got a zipper in it. I have 2 cats, so I have to keep my little yarn balls zipped up in a bag, otherwise they're all over my house and around furniture legs. So the one project that I wanted to show before I get too much further on it is this one. So I took all my little balls and I sorted them by color. And I don't know if I can hold it up enough further back. So I started with my pink, I think that's the back. I started with my pinks, and I held, what did I hold together? I held 4 together, 2 fingering and 2 mohair. So the fingering and mohair. And the pattern I loosely based it on is, I think it's called the Metropolitan Sweater by Tanis Fiberworks. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I just started knitting. And after I used up all my pink, then when I'd run out of one ball, I'd just tie on another ball. So it's all marled. And she's got quite a few of this pattern marled on Instagram. So now I'm down to using up my teals, and I'm still holding the mohair I'm holding these 2 mohair now with them. And right now I'm knitting with these 3. No, sorry. I'm done with this one now. And I'm knitting with these 2. So you can see this ball's just about done. And I have some more of this. When this one's done, I'll tie on this, and I think I can probably get started on my ribbing pretty soon. But I'm holding these 2 mohairs and these 2 for the section I'm knitting right now. And I should measure. I didn't measure it. I usually do my sweaters about 14 inches from the underarm before I cast on for my ribbing. I'm quite short, and if I do a 15-inch sweater, it usually hits me right about the crease in my leg at my hip, and it drapes nice. That's a nice length for me. So when I get this to about 14 inches, and I'm at 11.5 now, so I got a few more inches to go yet before I cast on for my ribbing. But I'm gonna start marling into the other, like the solid teal with the 2 mohair. So I'll hold 2 of the teal, this one. I'll hold 2 of that with the 2 mohair. So those three plus another teal will be my finishing off and my ribbing. I haven't decided yet what color I'm going to pick up and do my neckband, but I'll probably try and find some lighter pinks somewhere and use those. And then I've wound off balls of the colors that I've used in here. I split the balls, I weighed them and then split them. So I've got enough of these yarns to start doing my sleeves. Pick up my stitches off. I've got them on a piece of embroidery cotton or crochet cotton, my sleeve stitches, so I'll pick them up and cast on. So that's one project I'm doing with leftovers. And I had a bunch of little leftover mohair, little tiny balls that I used up in the top part of the sweater. And then I've had to go to my full skeins of mohair now because I ran out of the small balls. So that's one, and I made the smallest size, and I don't remember what size needles I'm on. I better be careful I'm not dropping stitches here. But I used the size needle that she calls for, and I didn't swatch. I just cast on. I believe she calls for 3 or 4. She's got different instructions in the pattern for different weights of yarn. And so I didn't swatch. I just cast on with the 4 yarns, and I like the fabric I've gotten. And I love how it's marled. I'm holding it upside down right now, but I love how the colors have just all marled together. And so that's one project out of garments that I've frogged. I'm trying to frog 1 or 2 garments a week and then do something with the yarn. So that's one. I'm sitting in my chair that I usually sit in to knit. I have my messy bookcase with all my knitting books behind me and jars of little balls of yarn. And this is where I usually sit to knit. So I've got my knitting all around me. And I'm not a very monogamous knitter. I've usually got about 10 projects on the go at the same time, but I'm trying to focus on these use it up projects right now. And here's my little balls I've got rolled off for my sleeves. And I have 2 cats here curious what I'm doing, sniffing everything out. So I'll show you this other project. This is not leftovers. I do a lot of hand spinning, and I wanted to knit something with my hand spun yarns. I want to eventually get to the point where I'm knitting with my hand spun rather than commercial yarns. And I buy my fleeces directly from the farm when they shear, and then I bring them home and wash them. And when I'm spinning the yarn myself, I dye in the fleece, and then I process it and spin it. But some of my fleeces I took to the mill to be spun, and then when I got the yarn back, I dyed the yarns. So this is all either hand spun or hand dyed that I have done, and I don't have a pattern. I just started knitting kind of generally based off of some measurements that I took off of a sweater coat in a Kathy Fessett book that I've got. So I kind of took my measurements from that, and I liked the pattern that's in Andrea Mowry's Shifty sweater and the Shift shawl. So I did that with because a lot of my hand spuns I didn't have enough to do an entire project. So this, I'll show you the back. So I just started doing the designs, the stitch pattern. It's a mosaic pattern, and so most of it is hand spun. I can't even remember which was which now. Some of it was some that I took to the mill and had spun, and then I dyed it. But all of it is wool that I made, either hand spun or hand dyed. And it's quite big. I wanted it to just at my knees. So I've got it the right length now. And I've got my sleeves done, and one of them is sewn up and completely done, and my ends are all woven in. I haven't done this underarm seam yet, but so that's the inside. I've been spending time weaving in ends. I've still got a few left to do on the inside of this sleeve. And then that underarm seam, and I've done my neckband. I'm not real crazy about the colors I used in it, but it'll do. And I've done my one front band. And the ribbing, of course, on the bottom is done. So I just need to do the underarm seam and pick up and do the buttonhole band. And then I'm finished this and I can block it. I didn't block the individual pieces. I'll just block the entire sweater when I'm done. And when I get it done, I'll take a picture of me wearing it. It's quite big, though. I wanted a nice long sweater coat because I'm always cold. I often wear 4 or 5 layers, and then I'll want a sweater over top of that. Because unless it's plus 35 outside, I'm cold. So I like this slip stitch pattern. Andrea Mowry calls them blips, and I can't look now. The pattern's on my phone and I'm recording with my phone. She calls them little blips and big blips. So there's the little blips and there's the big blips. So when you're working flat like I did for this, you're working on the right side and then the wrong side. I had to follow the instructions in her shift shawl because that's knit flat. But now I'm working on a project that's knit in the round, the shifty sweater. And because you're knitting in the round, your instructions are a little bit different than, but I loved that so much. So then I started this yesterday, and I took all my little balls. I have a bunch of like little bits of yarn left from knitting shawls, and I want to use them up. So I'm on my second one now, and just about at the end of that little ball. And I'm holding this mohair with my background, and I'm holding this mohair with my contrast colors. So those are the 2 mohairs that I'm using in the sweater, and my different backgrounds. So when I run out of a ball of background or the main color, I just tie on another one and keep on knitting, and then I'm changing the blips. I do 3 rows of the little blips and then 3 rows of the big blips, and then I change my contrast color. So this is where I am so far. So you cast on the neckband, and she calls for a tubular cast on. I just did a regular cast on, and then I did a twisted rib, which isn't in the pattern, but I like a twisted rib, and did it in my first main color, and then I started, here's the back. You do short rows in the back, and so I used, this was my first contrast color held with this mohair, and do my first little blips, and then I changed to this for my next little section of blips, and just continued on with my my main colors. And this one I didn't hold any mohair with because it's a heavier weight. Andrea calls for sport weight in the pattern. I'm using fingering and holding it with mohair, and I figured that this one, which is a DK weight, I believe. It was thick enough, almost too thick. So I didn't hold it with mohair. I cut the mohair to do this section right here. And then once I get the 3 little blips and 3 big blips done, I change my contrast again. So my next contrast here, I held this one. And I can't remember where I got any of these from. They've been caked up and in my stash for a long time, but I believe this one came from maybe Drops. I can't remember for sure. And now I'm doing this one, and this is a hand dye that I did. So that I just started that one for my next section here. And that's how far I got, but I wanted to do a little film of it and show you before I got too much further. I usually do about 8 inches from the neckband down before I split for my sleeves. And I measured this a little while ago, and it's 7.5 already, and I have 2 more increases to do for stitch count. So it might end up being, it doesn't look it now because I've got it on the needles, but it might end up being a really oversized fit for me, which is okay because I like that. I'm quite tiny, and most things are oversized on me, but I like that. But I'm really liking how it's turning out. What else was I going to tell? Oh, yes, the back. A lot of people that are doing it have mentioned that they have a line down the back that they're not real happy with. But I think mine's, maybe because I'm not changing colors as often. You can see where, because your join where you change colors is right here. And I don't mind that. I think once it's blocked, it's going to be hardly noticeable. But that's your beginning around where you're changing your colors right there. And I don't mind it at all. So, yeah, I have 2 more increases to do. And then I can split for the sleeves. So not too much more to do on this. But I'm trying to use up leftover balls that I make quite a few shawls. Shawls was a really convenient thing for me to take on the plane because it would fit in my flight bag. And I always had to have knitting with me for, I have restless legs. And when I was on the plane and not up walking around, I would have trouble with my legs getting restless. So I always had knitting with me. If I was sitting, I'd pick up my knitting and do it. Or on a night flight, I would do knitting in the back galley. So I knit a lot of shawls. This, what I'm wearing, is the Harmonize shawl. And I have 3 of these so far. I have this blue, and it's kind of a, it was a speckled yarn, like a, kind of a taupey beige with a speckle in it, and then the denim-y blue. This is my favorite shawl pattern. I'm going to make more. I would like to make one that's like a natural ecru color yarn with a really light pink. And I'll probably make that with hand spun. But I have this blue one, and then I have one that's pink and green, hand dyed yarn that I dyed. And then I have one that's red and gray. That my parka for work was red, and so I did a red and gray, because those were our company colors, red and gray. So I did a harmonized shawl to wear with my parka. But it's my favorite pattern. It's again, slip stitches here. Those are slips. Oh no, they're not, sorry. They're not slip stitches. It's garter stitch. And then a nice little lace pattern. A lot of garter stitch and lace. These are slip stitches here. It's a mosaic slip stitch pattern in that section. But I love this shawl, and I'm going to make more of them. I'll have one in every color maybe. But I used to knit